Alright guys, it's Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Envoy continues to move into this villain role. The Dark Prince is officially back in business with some big words over the last few days about challenges, about some of his competitors and rivals in the CDL, and also now about the Boston Breach, the team that beat them back at the major in the first round. Envoy says, look, you guys are still terrible. You should have just sat down and shut up when it comes to beating us. Otherwise, you wouldn't have got the karma in the remainder of the tournament. Did Envoy's performance and the Los Angeles Thieves performance of the major not necessarily justify all this trash talk? Is it going to backfire the way that it did with Shotzzy, or is this villain arc going to work out for the Dark Prince of the Los Angeles Thieves trying to get their revenge at Major 3 and beyond? Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Starting here, these are the cards for Major 2 for FaZe. You might think, wow, that's confusing that their numbers are as low as they are, and I think I'd be inclined to agree. Now, the reason why their numbers are lower than you might expect is that they don't play much Skyline or Vault at all. I think they've played Skyline and Vault combines in the respawn modes like once or whatever. They just don't play it. They play Protocol, they play Hassy, right? They play these other maps, and those maps are substantially slower. It's like a team in Vanguard not playing any Bocage, right? Like, if that's you, then your numbers are going to look worse in terms of Lion Man cards because your damage per 10, kills per 10 isn't going to be as good. And that simply kind of is what it is, right? Like, the numbers on the cards, we don't just make them up. Like, if you had to, like, you know, you'd be giving Cellium probably a 98, 99 overall if you just made them up for the stage that he had, and he was the MVP of the tournament. But technically, by the way that the numbers are calculated, it actually wasn't like impeccable for FaZe, which is interesting because obviously if FaZe don't play much of those faster paced maps, the teams that do are probably going to have artificially inflated numbers, you could argue, with FaZe having artificially deflated numbers. Whatever. The point is, don't look at the numbers, look at the record on the left-hand side. 16 in 5 hardpoint, 9 in 6 in search, 9 in 3 in control, and certainly Cellium in control with a 1.35. That is kind of bonkers, right? But yeah, that respawn execution, super impressive. What, 25 in 8 in respawns over the stage, and that's the team that OpTic beat 7-1 in scrims earlier today. So obviously there was plenty of talk about that, and for rather good reason. Drazah was playing some S&D8 as he always does. Huke, Skyz, TJ, Byron, of course, that being Prolute, Shotzzy, Neptune, and Johnny. So some usual suspects in there, but always good to keep an eye on. The Prolute thing is interesting, assuming that is Prolute, because Nastie's first name is also Byron, but Prolute was in a bit of drama because he was going to go to Falcons. Well, he was at least close to going to Falcons. And we talked about it a bit on the Dope Trick show yesterday with Don. But there's some rumours anyway that the team was pretty happy getting Prolute in. And then upper management basically decided we're not going to be signing him for whatever reason. Now, whether upper management is Clay, because, you know, they have a bit of history, Clay and Prolute, and maybe they're not fully on the same page, possibly. But yeah, Prolute seemingly was going to be the guy. The team was maybe down to make it happen, and then all of a sudden it didn't happen, and Priester was the man instead. Whether that's going to work out for Falcons, we'll see. Presumably by the time I'm recording this video, they've confirmed their roster, because it was meant to be confirmed yesterday, I thought, with Pred, Arcetes, Priester, and Exnid, of course, rounding out the roster. Don't know what Kix is doing. Hopefully he can come back at some point. There is some big games coming up, though, right? Because Kenny and his Rocker team, they play OpTic on Friday, and I think in a couple of weeks' time, maybe even the weekend after, it's Pred's Falcons up against OpTic as well. So there are some big games to come when it comes down to some of these, you know, teams playing against OpTic. As Scump says, wow, if Kenny beats us, oh my god, that Rocket team could be pretty good on paper. That would certainly be a storyline. I think one of the big storylines for me, though, really going into that series, if Kenny is there, is going to be Huke versus Kenny. Because for all the drama earlier in the season, whether Kenny actually wanted Pred back or not, we know that Kenny did that infamous stream where he was talking about some of the mistakes that OpTic were making, and he was highlighting some moments where Huke did not make plays that he wanted him to make. Now, does Huke make mistakes? Sure, he does. But the idea of Huke loading into the server against Kenny's new team and putting on a clinic, that would certainly be a storyline I'm sure that many are looking forward to, whether that happens or not. I know there was some talk yesterday briefly on whether any other team is going to make a change, whether there's like a last-minute move that some team is going to throw in. you know, lots of teams have made changes. Falcons, of course, Gentlemates, Miami, OpTic, of course, made some moves as well. Boston decided to stick it out, but Rocker are making changes too. There is potentially another team in the mix as well in the Ravens, because they were trying to get Kenny. It didn't happen. Now they're stuck with Vivid. I can't imagine that's going to be ending especially well, given that the team knows that that's a problem. That's at least my perspective. Tim was giving his thoughts on who they could get in the likes of Sparts, maybe in the likes of a Gunless as well. There's a little bit of a history there that may make a better sense. So, look, I guess we'll see what they do, if anything at all. But Ravens could be a little bit compromised. I think that's the point. And even the COD League are hyping this up and saying, look, the series is going to be interesting for no specific reason at all. Rocker versus OpTic. I can't possibly imagine what that would be looking like. This was Scrap, I thought was funny as well, after the OpTic scrims got chalked up for the control straight on Rocket League. I don't know if Nature has any thoughts on this. He probably doesn't care. Scrap's obviously got to enjoy himself in and outside of the game, and like, he's been a 99 overall every single stage, no matter what. But executing on LAN, I know that there's many people that say, oh, Scrap can't hack it in front of a crowd. He can't hack it when the pressure's on. And look, he's got to respond to some of these allegations for the rest of the season, because if Thieves go winless this year, that's, you know, frankly embarrassing and unacceptable. And let's talk about one of their players in Envoy. So Envoy's been getting in some drama over the last few days. I think it's great to see players like Envoy turn the stream on, because you don't often see it. And Envoy's turning on the stream and he's giving his perspective. Now, Envoy's like a veteran at this point. It feels kind of strange to say, but he's been around, a very, very long time. Like, he was playing in Advanced Warfare in 2015, and then most notably when he came in for the Black Ops 4 season on Midnight Esports, eventually ended up on Gen G, a team that was very successful, at least in terms of making finals that year, the World Championship less so. And then fast forward to the present day, Envoy's now world champion, multiple champion, and he's on what should be the best team, or one of the very best teams in the entire game. He gave his thoughts on expansion, pretty much saying that we don't need it because there's not enough talent anymore, and we debated that in some depth yesterday. Scump and Ziddy were giving their thoughts as well on the fact that, you know, expansion was, surely there's no downside, at least as a player and as a fan, to that happening. And even if you're a player on a great team and 4 more teams come in, you might say, okay, well, you know, it's just going to be free Ws for us. But okay, great, take the free W, farm the stats, and use those stats to get yourself paid a bit more, right? Get yourself a nice little bonus for being in the MVP race. I don't know. Like, I don't think it could be a bad thing, really. There is one final comment to be had on that, to be fair, because I'm still mind-blown this is actually a thing. But there's talk about challengers dying and all this, and there is a discussion of, and I don't really know why this hasn't changed yet, because Zinni says the same thing. There was a talking point at some point about the fact that, okay, well, what if the players in challenges who are struggling to make a living playing challenges, obviously, could get a real job during the day, and then at night they come home and they scrim, right? This is how it used to be. Slasher, for example, would go to university all day, working on his robot in the lab, and then he'd come home and scrim in the evening. Like, that's how it kind of used to be. Nowadays, though, the Challengers players, they like to keep the same schedule as the pros, but obviously they're not on pro salaries making pro money, so it makes it way more challenging. It's one of the things that, again, the league is at fault for many things, but if the players agrees collectively to change something like this, it probably would have some impact. Would it completely change the game? Maybe not entirely. Obviously, Slasher, the reason why I was talking about it was because Aches was here roasting him for some of his performances way back in 2014 when he came in on Ghost. Scrappy was giving his thoughts on that too. But certainly this year, there's been lots of talk about these villain arcs of certain players. I mean, I think even Simp kind of went down this route a couple of years ago, where Simp decided to be a bit more of a heel, right? Did it really work? Not necessarily. And Shotzzy was in a similar boat at the start of the season, talking all sorts of trash about other teams, saying they didn't understand how to play the game and all this, and Shotzzy isn't really saying that anymore. He may well still believe it. I mean, he's certainly implied that he does, but he's not really saying it so much. But Envoy's turned on the stream, he was watching some 8, of course, happen, and he was, well, letting his frustrations on many topics be known. And I think to some degree, when you're Envoy, you've had the success that he's had, you know, you're within your rights to say what you think, but obviously we are within our rights to talk about it. So Envoy was first of all calling out the players for the whole Rewind drama. I guess he doesn't know that actually it wasn't the players that got rid of Rewind, it was the league. I think if you had the teams vote on it, Rewind would would never have gone. Now, of course, it's back in for Search and Destroy, so I thought that was pretty funny. But the big one of yesterday was when they lost to Boston, and I thought this is a funny clip because it aligns quite well with this. When they were having the drama and the discussion around the upcoming talent and the state of the league and expansion, aBeZy mentioned that, yeah, you got smoked so bad by Boston Breach, you must have had a mental breakdown. So I'll share that clip for you guys. And then it was pretty funny how it aligned with the clip from last night when Envoy was talking about Boston. Now, I don't think Boston are a bad team. They're not a great team, precisely. I think they've got more potential than often some people expect. The Boston series win against Thieves is, of course, a massive surprise and an upset, but also Boston, they bowed out of the tournament in top 6, but their losses were to Surge, the team that made the finals, and Toronto, the team that came third, and also beat Thieves to bow out of the tournament, right? So Envoy's point on, oh, well, you beat us and then just bopped out of there, wasn't fully true. Like, the Surge series was super competitive, and sure, the Toronto defeat was pretty emphatic, but it was no less emphatic than what happened to Thieves when they got slammed by Toronto as well, not that long afterwards. So wanted to show a couple of clips, then we'll talk a bit more about it.
So 98% of the current league wasn't in the league.
Wow.
They were all amateur challenger noobs.
Wow. Slay.
Okay?
Slay, you're
So
spitting
where'd
right
they
now.
come from, Tom? Where'd they come from?
I don't know, Slay. My asshole. They came from my asshole, Slay.
They had opportunity and obviously broke into the scene, but they didn't exist. They were fucking challengers. We were pros. They weren't even involved.
Slay. Pat, you're spitting right now, Pat. You're spitting right now. That's why, Pat, I don't understand, like, Dylan's clip and Ernie's reaction in the chat and just the pros in general. I don't understand where they get their opinions from, like how these opinions come to be, Slay. How do these opinions come to be, Slay?
Listen, Tom, when you're getting smoked by Boston Breach, you can go on the deep depths and obviously have a mental breakdown and things just, you know, get twisted in their brain. But Tom, let me preface this by saying I don't want the CDL to expand, not because I don't believe that talent could come in the scene based on opportunity. I want the CDL to dissolve, have a brand new format and league system grow from its ashes, going back in time to what we knew worked in the day. That's what I want to occur. I don't want the CDL to expand.
It's the Slay League.
But the problem nowadays is there is near zero. You have a near zero reason to compete in Call of Duty Challengers right now, and that's the problem. That limits opportunity. So for that reason, we need opportunity to come to where more players can be involved in the professional league of Call of Duty. I just don't like the CDL product, but we absolutely need more opportunity to harvest that talent from challengers and get them in the league.
I'm
Tom,
actually glad
I gotta bounce.
Wait,
I love
Slay,
you, Tom.
Slay, wait,
Whoa.
Nah, that's what I'm saying though. I mean, dude, we lost the Boston series, right? I get you guys are hyper shit, but like, sit the fuck down. You guys are god awful. And then they just peace out right after. Beat me, lose 2 series. Good fucking bye, man. Sit your ass back then.
So I'm never going to complain about anything like this. Sensational drama and content as far as I'm concerned. But I think the Thieves fans and maybe other fans of the scene will have their perspective on this and exactly what it means about the players. Because I don't think Boston are that bad. Like, it's fine as a top pro player. You think the other team's terrible, sure. But equally, you did lose to them, right? So if you lose to them and then you're calling them bad, it never, never seems great. And equally, one could argue that a bit more respect could be deserving in terms of where Thieves currently are, because a Thieves of the opinion is Envoy of the opinion that, oh, well, those guys are terrible, we're so much better than them, we'll beat them next time. That kind of implies that Thieves, you know, they're confident where they currently are, they don't need to improve that much. But the reality is they did lose to Boston, so, you know, there's clearly a bit of soul-searching to be done on exactly why, because, look, Cammy and the boys are well within their rights to stand up and talk all kinds of trash on the other side of the stage when they beat you in this kind of moment, especially if you feel the way about them that clearly they do, that these guys are terrible, then of course they're going to talk all sorts of trash, which is exactly what happened in the end. Cammy certainly had a few words to say. So some would argue, you know, the ego on LA Thieves is getting out of control. What do you guys think in the comment section below? Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.